大桥被
because we will not be changing the colors of the shirt or anything like that. Alright. And now let's jump to selection pane and let's give Jack a proper name, for example, still start. So this is the position when Jack is just standing still before he starts running. And now let's make a quick copy. You can hold down Ctrl-Shift key. And for this copy on the right, let's call it still end. So this is the position when Jack finishes running and then he, starts standing still once again. So we have still start and still end. 2 Jacks. And to make it more fun, let's bring in one more Jack. So let's go to slide number 3 and let's copy this animated Jack that we have created. So let's just rename it in the selection pane. Let's call him running. Now let's just copy him and let's paste him into our first slide. Alright. Now let's make sure that we resize him and that he has pretty much the same proportions as the rest of the Jacks, so that everything looks correct. You can always try matching the heads of different characters, and this way they should match pretty nicely. Alright, now let's position this running Jack just behind the starting Jack. Okay, as you can see, if we hide the starting Jack in the selection pane, we can see the running Jack. That's awesome. But for now, let's actually hide the running Jack, so it's easier to work with this starting Jack. And now let's go to animations. And now let's open up the animation pane and let's add a disappear animation to this starting Jack. So let's go to exit animations and let's click on disappear animation. And as you can see, this animation starts on click, so let's leave it this way for now. Alright. And now let's go to selection pane and now let's hide the starting Jack and let's unhide the running Jack. Now we will add some animations to this running Jack. Let's make sure we select the running Jack. Let's go to animation pane. And the first animation that we will add to this running Jack will be appear animation. So let's click on appear and let's make sure it starts with previous, which means when the starting Jack will disappear, the running Jack will appear. And now let's add one more animation to the running Jack. Let's make sure he is selected. And now let's go to motion paths and let's choose line. Okay. Now we just have to adjust the direction. Now it's facing down, so let's go to direction and let's choose right. We want this running Jack to run to the right side. Now we can grab this red bubble and adjust how far Jack is running to the right side. So let's align it with this ending Jack, okay? And let's make sure that this motion path starts with previous as well. No smooth start, no smooth end, okay? Now in the selection pane we can unhide the starting Jack, okay? Now we can check out what do we have so far. Alright, so once we click, Jack starts running to the right side, but as you can see we still have to do some work here on the right side. Okay, so let's make sure that the running Jack is selected. We can go to selection pane and select the running Jack. And now let's add one more animation to the running Jack. Let's add a disappear animation, okay? And let's make sure it starts after previous. So once Jack is finished running, he will disappear. And at the same time we have to make sure that the standing Jack will appear once the running is finished. So let's make sure we select still end and let's add appear animation to still end Jack. And let's make sure it is started with previous. So once the running animation is finished, still end Jack will appear. So let's check it out on the full screen. Alright, so once we click, Jack starts running, and when he's finished, he's just standing. Everything according to the plan. But as you can see, if I click one more time, we just jumped this end slide. So to fix that, we can go to slideshow and go to setup slideshow, and we can choose this option, browse at kiosk full screen. And now all of the keyboard keys and mouse clicks will be disabled, except triggered animations and links. So this way you can make sure that no one accidentally advances the slide. Okay, now let's go to animation pane. Let's make sure we select all of these animations and let's add a trigger to these animations and let's choose still start, which means that all of these animations will be started only then when we click on the starting Jack. Alright? And clicking anywhere else would produce no results. So that's the power of kiosk mode. Kiosk mode, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, now we can duplicate the last slide. Alright. Let's go to selection pane, let's hide the running jack for now, it will be easier to work with these standing jacks, so let's make sure we select both of them. And now let's align them to the right side, just like that. Because now we want the starting jack to have the same position as the ending jack, okay? Now let's make sure that we select the ending jack and we bring him to a new position, which is on this rock on the right side. That's awesome. And now we can unhide the running jack. So he is still right here. We'll have to bring him closer, and as well we will have to change him because currently he's running and we'd like him to be jumping. So we can use one of the frames from our slide number 1, for example this one. So let's just copy this frame. And now let's get back to slide number 4. And now just right click on this running jack and let's use change picture from clipboard. And as you can see, Jack is not running anymore, he is basically frozen in this jumping position, and this is what we need, so let's bring him closer. And by the way, we will need to adjust the motion path, because this motion path was set to go to right, and now we have to jump on this rock on the right side. So we'll have to adjust the shape of the motion path, alright? So let's make sure that we select this motion path animation in the animation pane. And now let's go to path animation, and instead of lines, let's choose turns. Okay, and in the effect options, let's choose upright. Okay, and now let's bring this jumping jack to the starting position where the starting standing jack is. And now the motion path is pretty much right on spot. Let's zoom in, we'll have to adjust this motion path a little bit. And now let's jump to selection pane and let me hide the starting jack so that we can focus on the running jack. Well, actually he is jumping, so you can rename him to jumping if you wish. And now we can right click on the motion path and let's choose edit points, and now we can see all of the points that make up this motion path. So we can delete these points in the middle, let's just leave the starting point and the ending point, and we can adjust the position of the ending point so that we land where this standing jack is. And as well we can use these wide handles to adjust the shape of this motion path line. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And let's make sure we remove smooth start and smooth end from this animation. And for the duration, let's use half a second and let's check it out. Alright, I think we have a pretty nice jump. Alright, and if this tutorial was not yet tricky enough, let's add one more trick. Let's select all of the animations on slide number 5 and let's actually remove the animation trigger, okay? And for this first animation, let's make sure it starts with previous, so all of the animations on this slide will start automatically, okay? Now let's make sure that all of the jacks are visible in the selection pane, that's awesome. Now let's jump to slide number 4, let's select the ending jack. Now we will insert a link for this ending jack. Let's go to insert and click on link. That's wonderful. And let's choose next slide. Which means when we will click on this ending jack on slide number 4, we will jump to the next slide and we will see this jumping animation. So let's check it out if everything is working according to the plan. And by the way, we're still in the kiosk mode, which means random mouse clicks are not working unless we click on animation triggers or links. So let's check it out. And hooray, we jump to the next slide and we see the jump animation. Alright, now let's take care of the next jump to the left side. Okay, so let's duplicate the last slide, that's awesome. Now we can go to selection pane and let's hide the running jack for now, that's good. And as before, let's select both of the jacks and let's align the starting jack to the ending jack, okay? And now we can flip both of these jacks to the left side. Let's just flip them horizontally so that they're facing to the left side, okay? And now let's make sure we select the ending jack and we bring him to new location on this floating island in the center of the slide. That's awesome. Alright, let's unhide the running jack. So we will have to flip him horizontally as well. Let's bring him to new position. And I think we'll have to adjust the motion path a little bit, so let's make sure we select it in the animation pane, right click and choose edit points. Alright, so let's just drag this ending point to new position. That's good, and we can use those wide handles to adjust the trajectory of the jump. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Alright, so let's check it out how it looks like. That's a wonderful jump. Alright, and as we did before, let's go to the previous slide, let's select the ending jack and let's insert a link that takes us to the next slide. Alright. So the ending jack in slide number 4 takes us to slide number 5, and the ending jack in slide number 5 takes us to slide number 6. So that's the whole process, okay? Let's check it out on the full screen. Alright, so now we jump to the next slide, and now we jump to the next slide. That's super awesome. Alright, now we have 2 more jumps to make, and since you already know